Hello, everybody, and here we are with another video lesson. So this one's on locating points and midpoints. We're going to use something called the midpoint formula to help you find the middle of a segment. And then we're going to do something kind of goofy where we find a location of a point, like a fractional distance. So it's not going to be in the middle, like a midpoint. It'd be like a sixth of the way or an eighth of the way or something like that. It gets kind of goofy, but hang tight and we'll get there in just a moment, all right? So first, let's talk about a midpoint. There we go. Okay, so the midpoint is exactly what it sounds like. It is the halfway point between the endpoints of a segment. It's the exact middle. So in our example here, if we have point M, and it's the midpoint of segment AB, then this chunk AM is the same as this chunk NB, right? If someone says, I'll meet you halfway, you don't want to go more than them. Like, you want to meet them directly in the middle, so you're doing equal work, correct? So the midpoint is halfway between, meaning those halves are now equal. So let's say if AM was 5, you would automatically know NB would be also 5. Capiche? Does that kind of make sense? Okay, this next example, we are reading a thermometer, and it says the temperature on a thermometer dropped from a reading of 25 degrees to negative 8 degrees. Find the midpoint of these temperatures. So there's a few ways you could go about this. Don't make it more complicated than it has to be. Remember, the midpoint is your middle, right? So it's like your average. So for me, I'm thinking, how do I average something? You know, I'm going to find the average by adding them up and then dividing by how many there are. So if I take 25 plus negative 8, and I can divide it by 2, that's going to tell me the middle. So 25 plus negative 8 is 17, divided by 2 is equal to 8.5. So the middle of those temperatures is 8.5 degrees. Again, like I said, there's more than one way to think about it. That's how my brain thought of it, so that's how I'm teaching you. Again, you might have thought of something different, but that's just one way to do it. We have something called the midpoint formula, which you will use often. This is specifically talking about like if you're on like a coordinate grid, like an XY chart. So you're going to be given 2 sets of ordered pairs, one here, and based on that, you're going to plug them into your formula, right? So what you do is you take your x coordinates, add them together, divide by 2. That would give you your x coordinate. Then you're going to take your y coordinates, add them together, and then divide that number by 2 to get your final answer. It's very simple, as long as you write down your formula right now and plug it in correctly. The math itself is not difficult. So we are asked to find the midpoint of segment ST if S is at negative 6, 3, and T is at 1, 0. So again, I like to label my points, at least to start off with, so I don't make any mistakes. Remember, each ordered pair gets an X and a Y. And now we plug in. So remember your midpoint formula, you take your X coordinate, so X1, which we label as negative 6, add it to our X2, which is 1, throw it all over 2. Now your Y coordinate, take your Y1, which we labeled as 3, your Y2, which we labeled as 0, divide by 2. And now we just simplify, right? So negative 6 plus 1 would give me negative 5 over 2. 3 plus 0 we know is just 3 over 2. If you're a fraction person, this could be your answer. If you're a decimal person, let's divide it out. Negative 5 divided by 2 gives me negative 2.5. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And there we go. It's that easy. That is our answer. We just found the middle of that segment. Okay, this next one is a little goofier. It says find the coordinates of J if K is the midpoint of the segment and JL. Okay, let's back up. I read that funny. Okay, we're looking for the coordinates of J if K is the midpoint of the segment JL and L has the coordinates of this. So this time we're looking for one of our endpoints. So this time we have both a midpoint and an endpoint, and we're looking for the missing endpoint. I like to draw myself a picture like this. It helps me kind of think about it. So I know my segment has endpoints J and L and has a midpoint of K, right? They told me all this information here. K is the midpoint of segment JL. Now let's label, right? We're looking for the coordinates of J. This is a mystery. We got to figure out what goes there. We were told K is at -1, 2, and L is at 3, -5. Okay, so folks, remember now, don't overcomplicate this. This distance has to be the same as that, right? Because K is my midpoint. So what I like to do is see how far away these are. So how far away is -1 to 3? Well, from -1 to 3, I have to add 4, right? So now I have to go 4 the other way to get to J. So if I add 4 to -1, I'm going to end up at 3. So I'm going to want to subtract 4. So what's -1 minus 4? It's -5. So we just found our x coordinate. Now, folks, we're going to do the exact same thing again with our y. So I'm thinking, how do I jump from 2 to 5? 2 to -5. Well, I have to subtract 7. So now to go to the opposite side, I'm not going to subtract 7 again. I'm going to add 7. So 2 plus 7 gives me 9. So the ordered pair of J is -5, 9. We will do more of those in class. I know those kind of get confusing, but just remember your middle has to be in your middle. So you have to go equal distance away from the middle to get to your endpoints. Find the measure of segment PQ if Q is the midpoint of segment PR. So we are told, folks, that this is the middle, meaning that this chunk here is congruent to this chunk here. And we want to find the length of PQ. Well, we first got to figure out what y is, right? We got to solve for our variable. Well, we know these two things have to be equal because Q is the midpoint. So why don't we start there? So PQ has to equal QR. Now, let's plug in what they equal. 9y minus 2 equals 14 plus 5y. And now we solve like we've done for forever. Get your y's to one side and get your variables to the other. So 9y minus 5y gives me 4y. Bring the 2 over and we get 16. Divide out. We find that y equals 4. But now we have to answer the question. We didn't want what y equals. We want the measure of PQ. So we're going to plug in 4 for PQ. So 9 times 4 minus 2. 9 times 4 is 36. Minus 2 is 34. So we just found PQ to equal 34, folks. We're going to skip this next one. We'll do it in class together. Actually, folks, we're going to end it there. Okay, thank you for watching. This is our last example. We will finish the rest of these notes in class together. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you in class. Goodbye.